Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Cooking up little Eye of the Tiger for suits today. Fine tailored suits brought to you by Quality Tire. 10 locations across Saskatchewan. QualityTire.ca. What's your, when you hear the Rocky theme song, Suits, which of the 6 movies plus 2 Creeds do you immediately go to? Is it Rocky 3 where the tune came from, or what?
No, well, I'd like the 2 that I really, obviously number 1 for me was, off the hook great. I mean, who didn't like Rocky and the training and, yo, cut me, Mick, cut me. I mean, even at the end when he when Adrian jumps up in the ring and they're celebrating because he made it the distance.
Right.
Which is all he wanted to do in the first one was to go the distance with the champion. And he did it, and then he goes, he in the middle of it, and I don't know if it was ad-libbed or not, but in the middle of it, he turns to Adrian and says, "Where's your hat?"
Suits, give me your best Adrian. Yo, Adrian.
Yo, Adrian, where's your hat?
Why don't you try knocking me down? I could change.
But the Eye of the Tiger was a training song. As soon as you saw him train, and I love the comparisons between Drago training.
Oh yeah.
And Rocky training. They were doing the same muscle groups and the same types of stuff, but one was in a gym with high technology and all that, and the other was out in the wilderness chopping down trees, which was really cool.
Rocky 4 was phenomenal. Rocky 5 was an abomination. Rocky Balboa was fine. It was a nice little rap. Creed was fantastic. Creed 2 less so. Some great movies and some absolute terrible films in the Rocky 8-pack now of movies in the Rocky world now. Suits, you and I had what I thought super interesting conversation that made me think of this in a way I hadn't before. But we were talking about Nelson Lacombo and Logan Bandy getting workouts with Washington. Now those were canceled because of a COVID case with a different player today. But I always kind of hold my breath as a fan when guys like, in this case, Lacombo and Bandy, start getting workouts in the States. But after talking to you for a little bit, I realized, oh, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't worry about it so much. What do you take when CFL guys start getting NFL looks and tryouts?
Yeah, I think it's outstanding. I really do. I think, the value and the messaging that we get from players that have gone down there, whether it's guys like big high-profile players like Warren Moon or Doug Flutie, who have become great ambassadors for the Canadian Football League at every time they're asked in the States. It's the same with some coaches. I remember when John Hufnagel was down, working with some of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL, and I would talk to him at Super Bowls and different media opportunities, and he would be just so respectful, and then end up coming back in 2008 with the Calgary Stampeders. So, it's the same with coaches and players, and I think, first of all, we hope that every player, every media member, everybody, no matter what your job is, that you can make as much money as you can, and that you can prosper in your world, prosper in your world of expertise, or whatever you've decided to be your goal and ambition in life. So you wish the best for the individual. But I think we get great ambassadors of the game when they're down there. I cheer them on. You can be a fan of, one of the guys that have gone down. I'm trying to think of a couple of them, like even Dakota Shepley, let's say, we haven't seen the team play since he's left, but Dakota took some time to get used to the next level. He wasn't an all-star when he first showed up. He worked his way towards playing at that caliber, and now he gets an opportunity. I think we can cheer him on. If you bought a Dakota Shepley jersey, it doesn't go away. You're still proud of the fact that he was a rider once, maybe will be again someday, and in the meantime, you can watch him wherever he is in the National Football League. I just, this polarizing discussion over decades of which league is better, which league is more entertaining, which league has better athletes. The athletes that get drafted, the athletes that sign as free agents on either side of the border now are good enough athletes to play in either league. I keep saying it over and over because every Pro Bowler that I played beside, that was in the same locker room as me in Saskatchewan, every single one of them said to me, boy, Canadians don't even know how good this is up here. I mean, they've watched it their whole lives, and they don't appreciate the quality of play, the quality of athlete. Different game in a lot of ways. Some smaller guys as opposed to bigger O-linemen, tight ends, things like that down south. Little bit different in the style, so they're a different style of athlete in some positions. But I'm, DT, like we talked about earlier, I wish the best for them. I follow their careers down south. They become great ambassadors for our game here. I don't think you have to choose between leagues. We can like football in general, have a favorite NFL team and have a favorite CFL team and that you have in your backyard.
Yeah. And as we were talking about this, I started thinking about, okay, well, the fear is all the huge stars of the CFL are going to go, they're going to leave, and our league is going to be left with nothing. And then I started running through my mind, okay, well, who are the players who have left the CFL for the NFL? And there's a certain number of them that left after 2019 that you go, oh, those are big losses, but we haven't had any effects yet. So Winston Rose, Trey Roberson, Marcus Sales, Deshaun Amos as 4 defensive backs, Reggie Bagleton, the Strevolution, Chris Strevler. Okay, those guys, Derek Moncrief, those guys haven't had a chance to play yet, so we haven't felt any loss of that. But I started digging back in time, and I go, okay, Brett Jones is a guy we would love to have in the Canadian Football League, right? Of course, it was Calgary, but Weyburn's finest. Brett Jones doesn't play in the CFL, but honestly, do we notice it as football fans that Brett Jones, an incredible Canadian player, doesn't play up here? Do we assess the value of the 9 centers in the CFL and go, oh, we are lacking something for not having Brett Jones? And as great as Brett Jones is, I don't think we look at football and think, oh, we're really missing this because the NFL took one of our guys.
Yeah. Brett Jones, by the way, has come back, and I've seen him many times in the press box in Mosaic, and he's been a great ambassador for Canadian football at every step of the way down south. Yep. And I mentioned earlier that Cameron Wake still had his BC Lion flip-flops for years after he left the Lions, and really loved and respected that opportunity he got in BC for 2 years before becoming a Pro Bowler. So, I think when we look at the athlete across the board, as a fan, you have your moment where you say, oh, it's too bad that good player is leaving to a different team. But that could be the same in free agency if he's leaving to the Argos from the Riders. So now he's leaving to a different league. You can still follow him. You can still watch him. You can still have pride in wearing his jersey. But then you are, I think, immediately looking at, well, okay, who replaces him? And where does he come from? And then you get excited about the next wave and the next guy. And because it's so close athletically, I mean, if you take a look at the DBs, not the top 4 players. I'm not talking about, Tom Brady and, name the best receiver in NFL,
Say DeAndre Hopkins, the best receiver right now.
Jerry Rice or whatever.
Okay, all time. Sure.
You're talking about the elite of the elite in the top 10 guys in the world. And then after that, if you took every DB in the National Football League and just looked at his measurables, look at his test scores, look at his 40 time,
his highway press, 40, yeah.
Yeah, and then do that with the CFL draft guys.
Yeah,
and you'll see the exact same numbers.
Yeah.
So that's what they are athletically. So what makes a guy become a star? At what point and what level do they get there? It's about commitment. It's about having your mind right. It's being unselfish. It's studying every day. You have to become a student at the pro level or you will be left behind. And that is a big difference maker. Guys cut themselves that are great athletes that just don't really want to do the work. And they get caught up. And, I in Regina many years in a row, I was up against Alabama and USC and University of Washington, and maybe we'll change the ratio and move the Canadian to the wide corner and the tackle, and maybe Suter will be replaced by the guy that went to Alabama. Well, that guy just decided he was too good for the league, didn't study, got beat once in a preseason, and all of a sudden I'm starting safety again.
Yeah, it's like I just listed out names of guys who have played in the CFL and went to the NFL, and some of them went and came back. So we lost 2 years, say, of Adam Bighill, but he's back in the CFL. We've maybe lost forever Deontay Spencer, who was so good in Toronto and Ottawa as that ex-receiver, that boundary wide receiver. Toronto went and got Darrell Walker. Overall, is the league an 82 instead of an 82.5 or an 83? Edmonton loses Brandon Zylstra and replaces him with the 6 other guys that they have. Zylstra was unbelievable in 17, but they replaced him with a bunch of other guys. Tavon Campbell is a guy who we are super proud of getting his run with the Chargers. He was not yet a CFL star, but he's making his way in the NFL. So I get the feeling we don't lose our star players to the NFL like I feared we do. The Fajardos, the Rileys, the Mitchells, to now a case the Darrell Walkers, the Charleston Hugheses, the Willie Jefferson is back. Gosh, and on and on and on. My fears that the NFL is going to come and just kind of swoop up all our stars. When I look back at it, it hasn't happened, and I should stop being afraid of it.
Yeah, stop being afraid of it. Enjoy it. Follow those players down south.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then look at the new guys and look at the new guys replacing them, and appreciate what they bring to the table. Because again, sometimes making the team really comes down to where you were drafted. Certainly down there are politics involved. When in the NFL, when you're drafted in the first 3 rounds, you're going to get 2 years to make that team. If you're coming from the CFL and an NFL tryout, you may get 2 reps of practice. So you better do something in those 2 reps. And if you don't, it's kind of like it's easy to release you and maybe you return. That doesn't mean you can't play there. And then I would say, and this is not disparaging Deontay Spencer at all, but when he was a BC Lion, were they going to play in the Grey Cup and not play there because they lost him? No, that wasn't going to happen. Was the Toronto Argonauts a Grey Cup team with Deontay Spencer and then not a Grey Cup team without him? No, because they replaced him. They found the next young receiver or free agent, and the wheel keeps turning. And now you have to find a way to bring who you have in that particular year together, empower them to take full ownership of the team, and then have that great season.
Glenn, how much does the narrative change on this topic if that player that goes south is your marquee player, i.e. the quarterback?
Well, I guess you could ask that same question. I mean, Strevler was a backup in Winnipeg, and he went south, so we follow him and we enjoy what he does. And I know what you're getting at, Mitchell, and I would put it this way: when the Patriots lost Tom Brady goes to the Bucs. Tons of Patriots fans really upset with that. Obviously, couldn't believe it happened. Upset. Some saying, "Well, let's see what we got next." The Cam Newton comes in, apples and oranges.
One hopper to the tight end, Newton incomplete. Yeah.
Yeah. So my point being that player movement in pro sports happens. And sometimes your stars move on. Sometimes they move to a different league. Sometimes they move to a different team. It's a business decision. Look at Matt Dunnigan, one of my colleagues, one of the guys I would have loved to have played with, a Hall of Famer. What did he play on? Almost all the teams. So, I think that's going to happen. That's going to happen. And it's not a shot at the league. It doesn't disparage the league in any way to say Cody Fajardo is going to be a San Francisco 49er in 2 years. What we should do is enjoy him while we have him, because he's an outstanding competitive quarterback and make all the throws, and he can maybe lead a Saskatchewan championship team.
Who was the last quarterback of substance who left the CFL?
Doug Flutie.
I just started scripted down. Flutie, Dickinson, Garcia all went to the NFL. We're all talking the 90s and the early 2000s.
And 2 of those 3 got playing time. Glenn, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think Dave ever started a game for Miami.
San Diego? I'd have to Google it up. But
yeah, like I know
Diego,
Doug.
yeah, San Diego.
He did start a game for them.
let me Google it up as we go. But
I don't think he started a game. But I went down to do a story because Davis Sanchez was in San Diego at the same time that Dave Dickinson was, and Mike Riley was their head coach. Mike Riley, of course, had experience in the CFL with the Bombers, so he knew me when we got down there. And I'm in San Diego at their mini camp. And honestly, I assessed the play of their quarterbacks. They brought in Drew Brees, which, because of where they drafted Drew Brees, that ended it for Dave Dickinson, basically.
Yep.
But when you assessed what you watched in practice, I ranked Davis Sanchez as the third best corner they had at that time. And Dickinson looked great. He looked like he could, given the right opportunity, he could be, a Pro Bowler.
Just pulled it up here as we go to break. Dickinson, four teams in the NFL: San Diego, Seattle, Miami, and Detroit. It says here no stats accumulated in the NFL. So Dickinson didn't get a run, though he had a couple of years down there. Henry Burris went to Chicago for a bit, but then came back in. Gosh, Dave Ritchie was the coach of the Bombers at the time he came back. That's how long ago it was. We seem to
Chicago,
not
Green Bay.
Yeah, we don't lose quarterbacks from the Canadian Football League, the true stars of the game. It's 5:50. More with Glenn Suter as we continue on the Sports Cage. Continue with Glenn Suter. I'm throwing it out to the room. Glenn Suter, I'll start with you unless you need a moment. Give me the guy for which, hands off NFL, you can never take this guy from the Canadian Football League. You will fight Jerry Jones to the death on his mega yacht to keep this guy in the CFL.
Well, Cody Fajardo would be one of them.
Yes.
Mike Riley would be one of them.
Yes.
Guys that are these character players, these blood and guts, heart and soul guys that get in the locker room and rally a team. The team follows them through a brick wall. Those are the guys that I love and respect. I mean, you can respect talent, and that's fine, and I do, but don't take Mike Riley's. Don't take the Cody Fajardo's. Don't take, and even if you do, I will follow them and they'll be studs down there. I believe that. But, and if I had a Fajardo jersey, I would wear it every time I see him play for the Dolphins or whoever, if he ended up doing that. But,
Glenn, that being said, if Cody Fajardo left Saskatchewan to go play for the Miami Dolphins, all of us in Saskatchewan would follow Cody Fajardo's career. But would people in Eastern Canada, would they care? Would people out that support the BC Lions care? Like, I just think, same if Bo Levi Mitchell left. Calgary would, people in Calgary would, but would other people around the league go, whatever?
I think the CFL is very regional.
Yes.
I think there are very few folks who just cast a wide net over the league, and man, I love all 9 teams of the CFL. So for those, and some of us may be like, Bo Levi Mitchell might be the backup quarterback in Minnesota. Hope he doesn't get hurt down there. We might root against him here. I don't know how many people there are, Suits, that are just general CFL fans and not, man, I love the Riders.
Yeah, I think that's true to all sports fans with their teams, right? Their teams. Like if it's if you're a Habs fan or a Maple Leaf fan, oh my goodness.
Hey, Glenn, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to be fined for that.
I feel
comment.
the same way.
No, just about Woolerton. God. Anyway,
if you're a fan of them and you lose your guy, Austin Matthews, who signs with the Oilers and plays with McDavid, you're mad, you're upset, So I don't think that changes with the CFL is not unique in that discussion as far as them losing guys. To me it's about the respect for the level of athleticism that the players have and the number of guys who athletically in North America could be playing pro football in one of the 2 leagues. That number is a really high number, more so than hockey. It's different than hockey. And that high number, and I'm talking thousands, that could play athletically, but for whatever reason, they didn't get the right opportunity. They didn't get through the politics. They didn't apply themselves. They got hurt at the wrong time. 1,000 reasons, but don't tell me that, I can list multiple players right now that would be starting on teams in the NFL. I mean, there's lots of them.
Yeah, opportunity needs to be the thing. Tim Tebow may get a chance for the Jacksonville Jaguars because of a relationship from more than a decade ago with his college coach, who's now the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Mitchell, give me a you can have him if you pry him out of my cold dead hands. CFL player.
CFL player?
Yeah.
Well, obviously Cody Fajardo would be one, because I think that he's probably, if not an emerging face of the league, he is the face of the league. But the face of the league, emerging, because I think the face of the league, as much as we hate him in this province, is Bo Levi Mitchell.
Yeah.
He's the face of the CFL right now.
The headband, the winning record that we trumpet, the Grey Cups, the MOPs for the Grey Cup. Yeah, Fajardo, absolutely. Suits nailed it with Mike Riley. To me, you can have Brian Burnham when you pry him out of my cold dead hands. I love that guy so much, and maybe he'd like to earn millions of dollars, but I want him in the CFL because I love watching that guy play.
And I would agree with Mike Riley, but I also take a look at Mike Riley's age now and go, he's on the... Yeah, I just...
Blood, sweat, and tears.
I know. And he's got the best hat game going.
There was a game in 2019, Suits, you probably called it, where he had to take his own intestines and stuff them back in because he got hit so hard.
Well,
and
the coach
back
from
out
Montreal
there.
had to take his shirt off to get his headphones off, too, but that's another...
Hey, we started with Rocky. He was like Rocky, man.
There
He
you
was
go. There you go. But yeah, I just think that the face of the league is Bo Levi Mitchell, as much as we hate to say it in Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
Cody Fajardo is the emerging face of this league. Brian Burnham would certainly be a guy.
I just love Brian Burnham.
Brian
so much.
Burnham would be a guy. If we had a...
I want Charleston in this league for another decade. There's a lot of guys there.
Glenn, if we had an EA Sports Suitor CFL 21, who's your cover boy?
Oh, Fajardo. It's got to be Cody. If you say Vernon Adams, I'm coming through this computer at you.
Well, maybe Willie Jefferson, too.
True.
If you want to take one of the most dominant players in the game in the last 3 or 4 years, tough to, if you're going to go outside of a quarterback, but
a guy who came back from a stint in the NFL to do great things up here in Canada once again. Suits, thank you, my friend. We'll talk to you on Monday.